The Vatican has announced the first ever American leader of the Catholic Church, Robert Prevost, who will be known as Pope Leo XIV. The 69-year-old cardinal was born in Chicago and spent many years as a missionary in Peru. He was made a cardinal by Pope Francis in 2023 and appointed head of the Dicastery for bishops, a powerful position responsible for selecting new bishops. Significantly, he presided over one of Francis's most revolutionary reforms when he added 3 women to the voting bloc which decides on the bishop nominations sent to the Pope. As cardinal, he said little on key issues of the Church, but some of his positions are known. He is reportedly very close to Francis's vision regarding the environment, outreach to the poor and migrants. He said in 2024 the bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom. He also supported Pope Francis's stance on allowing divorced and remarried Catholics to receive Holy Communion. However, he only showed mild support for Francis allowing priests to bless same-sex couples. Pope Leo has years of experience in leadership roles within the Church. He was twice elected to the top position of the Augustinian religious order, and Francis clearly had an eye on his progress, moving him from the Augustinian leadership back to Peru in 2014, where he served as administrator and later Archbishop of Chiclayo. He acquired Peruvian citizenship in 2015 and remained in that role until 2023, when Francis brought him to Rome. While there has long been a taboo against an American pope, given the geopolitical power the U.S. already wields, Leo was being promoted as a compromise candidate ahead of the conclave. The amount of time he has spent in Peru also allows him to be seen as a more universal candidate rather than American. The world learned a new pope had been chosen at around 6:08 p.m. local time, 5:08 p.m. UK time, on Thursday as white smoke suddenly emerged from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. Robert Francis Prevost, 69, has spent most of his career as a missionary in Peru and became a cardinal only in 2023. He has given few media interviews and is a relative unknown on the global stage. The late Pope Francis brought him to the Vatican in 2023 to serve as the powerful head of the office that vets bishop nominations from around the world, one of the most important jobs in the Catholic Church. As a result, Prevost enjoyed a prominence going into the conclave that few other cardinals had. One strike against him, however, was his nationality. There has long been a taboo against a U.S. pope, given the geopolitical power already wielded by the United States in the secular sphere. But Prevost, a Chicago native, is also a Peruvian citizen. Italian newspaper La Repubblica called him the least American of the Americans for his soft-spoken touch. Prevost was also twice elected prior general, or top leader, of the Augustinian religious order, founded in the 13th century by Saint Augustine. The order operates in 50 countries and has a special focus on a life of community and equality among its members. Francis clearly had an eye on him for years, moving him from the Augustinian leadership back to Peru in 2014 to serve as the administrator and later Archbishop of Chiclayo. He remained in that position, acquiring Peruvian citizenship in 2015, until the late pontiff brought him to Rome in 2023 to assume the presidency of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. In that job he would have kept in regular contact with the Catholic hierarchy in the part of the world that still counts the most Catholics. Ever since he arrived in Rome, Prevost kept a low public profile, though he was well known to the men who count. Significantly, he presided over one of the most revolutionary reforms Francis made, when he added 3 women to the voting bloc that decides which bishop nominations to forward to the Pope. In early 2025, Francis again showed his esteem by appointing Prevost to the most senior rank of cardinals, suggesting he would at least be Francis's choice in any future conclave. Rev. Mark Francis, a friend of Prevost since the 1970s, told Reuters the cardinal was a firm supporter of his predecessor's papacy, and especially of the late pontiff's commitment to social justice issues. He was always friendly and warm and remained a voice of common sense and practical concerns for the Church's outreach to the poor, said Francis, who attended seminary with Prevost and later knew him when they both lived in Rome in the 2000s. He has a wry sense of humor, but was not someone who sought the limelight, he added. The Rev. Fidel Purisaca Vigil, the communications director for Prevost's old diocese in Chiclayo, remembered the cardinal rising each day and having breakfast with his fellow priests after saying his prayers. No matter how many problems he has, he maintains good humor and joy, Purisaca said. Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, September 14, 1955, is the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City State since May 8, 2025, where he was elected Pope, becoming the first United States citizen, Peruvian citizen, or North American to do so. Born in Chicago, Illinois, United States, Prevost spent the early part of his career there working for the Augustinians. He served in Peru from 1985 to 1986 and from 1988 to 1998 as a parish pastor, diocesan official, seminary teacher, and administrator. He was made a cardinal in 2023. He served as prefect of the Dicastery for bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America since 2023. He served as Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru from 2015 to 2023, and was General of the Order of Saint Augustine from 2001 to 2013. In 2023, Pope Francis appointed Prevost as Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, a prominent role that elevated his profile as a potential papal candidate. Early life and education. Robert Francis Prevost was born in Chicago on September 14, 1955, the son of Louis Marius Prevost and Mildred Martinez. His father, who was a United States Navy veteran of World War II and school administrator, was of French and Italian descent, and his mother of Spanish descent. As a child, Prevost served as an altar boy at St. Mary of the Assumption Church on the far south side of Chicago. He completed his secondary studies at the minor seminary of the Order of Saint Augustine in 1973. Prevost earned a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics at Villanova University in 1977. Prevost speaks English, Spanish, Italian, French, and Portuguese, and can read Latin and German. Augustinian, 1977 to 2025. Deciding to become a priest, Prevost joined the Order of Saint Augustine in September 1977. He took his first vows to the order in September 1978 and his solemn vows in August 1981. The following year, he was awarded a Master of Divinity degree from the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. Prevost was ordained a priest by Archbishop Jean Jadot for the Augustinians in Rome on June 19, 1982. He earned a licentiate of canon law in 1984 and a Doctor of Canon Law degree in 1987 from the Pontifical College of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome. Prevost joined the Augustinian mission in Peru in 1985 and served as Chancellor of the Territorial Prelature of Chulacanas from 1985 to 1986. He returned to Peru in 1988, spending the next 10 years heading the Augustinian Seminary in Trujillo. He also taught canon law in the diocesan seminary and served as prefect of studies. Prevost served as judge of the regional ecclesiastical court and a member of the College of Consultors of Trujillo. He also led a congregation on the outskirts of the city. In 1998, Prevost was elected provincial of the Augustinian province of Chicago and returned to the United States to assume that position on March 8, 199. In 2000, Prevost allowed Father James Ray, an Augustinian priest, to reside at St. John's Stone Friary in Chicago. Ray had been suspended from public ministry since 1991 due to credible accusations of sexual abuse of minors. Although the priory was close to a Catholic elementary school, Prevost did not notify the school administration about Ray. The Augustinians noted that Ray was assigned a monitor while at St. John's Stone. Ray was moved to a different residence in 2002 when the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops adopted stricter rules for handling priests accused of abusing minors. In 2001, Prevost was elected to a 6-year term as Prior General of the Augustinians. He was elected to a second 6-year term in 2007. From 2013 to 2014, Prevost served as Director of Formation in the Convent of Saint Augustine in Chicago, as well as First Counselor and Provincial Vicar of the Province of Our Mother of Good Counsel, which covers the Midwestern United States. Prevost has faced criticism from advocates for clergy abuse survivors regarding his handling of sexual abuse allegations during his leadership in the Augustinian order and in Peru. Bishop of Chiclayo. On November 3, 2014, Pope Francis appointed Prevost as Apostolic Administrator of the Diocese of Chiclayo and titular Bishop of Sufar. He received his episcopal consecration on December 12, 2014, at St. Mary's Cathedral in Chiclayo. On September 26, 2015, he was named Bishop of Chiclayo. On July 13, 2019, Prevost was appointed a member of the Congregation for the Clergy in Rome, although he initially declared that only the humble ones are eligible. On April 15, 2020, he was named Apostolic Administrator of Callao in Peru. On November 21, 2020, Francis named him a member of the Congregation for Bishops. Alleged victims of abuse dating back to 2007 from 2 priests, said that Prevost failed to open an investigation in 2022. Within the Episcopal Conference of Peru, Prevost served on the Permanent Council for the 2018 to 2020 term. He was elected in 2019 as president of its Commission for Education and Culture. He was also a member of the leadership of Caritas Peru. Prevost had a private audience with Francis on March 1, 2021, fueling speculation of a new assignment either in Chicago or Rome. Dicastery for Bishops. On January 30, 2023, Francis appointed Prevost Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops with the title Archbishop Bishop Emeritus of Chiclayo. At the September 30 consistory, Francis appointed him Cardinal Deacon of Chapel of Santa Monica degli Agostiniani in Rome. In 2023, Pope Francis appointed him as the Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, a key position within the Roman Curia. The office is responsible for evaluating and recommending candidates for the episcopate around the world. This role increased Prevost's visibility and influence within the Catholic Church, potentially raising his profile ahead of any future papal conclave. On February 6, 2025, Francis promoted Prevost to Cardinal Bishop, assigning him to the Suburbicarian Diocese of Albano in the province of Rome. On May 8, 2025, the second day of the 2025 papal conclave, Prevost became the first pope from both North America and the United States. He took the name Leo XIV. Thank you for watching this video.